Ross Errilly Abbey, as it is known throughout Ireland, has quite a disputed foundation date. The year 1351 is one which appears commonly in text such as the Annals of the Four Masters, the Annals of the Franciscan Order compiled by Father Luke Wadding, and three other 17th century manuscripts. Another date which appears is 1498, believed to refer to the transfer of the house to observant, which again many historians disagree with, and believe it is the date to which the provincial chapter was held in the friary at Moyne instead, and that Ross was built primarily for the observance. However, it is within reference to Ross Errilly which appeared in wills which provides a clearer picture. The earliest reference to an existence of a friary at Ross dates from the 18th of March 1469. Another reference is found in the Annals of Connacht under the year 1471, where a burial is mentioned within Ross Errilly under the protection of God and St. Francis. Also of interest is the compiled list of friaries present in Ireland, which shows that Ross Errilly was not in existence before the year 1385. Architectural evidence is also of importance, with architect and antiquarian Harold Gillespie stating that the remaining structures of Ross Errilly belong mainly to the end of the 15th century. So the presumption can be stated that Ross Errilly was founded sometime in the period of 1460 to 69. Ross Errilly is usually referred to as Ross Errilly Abbey, Friary, and even the residence of the Grey Friars of Ross. However, though it is known as an abbey, this term is incorrect as an abbot was never present at Ross Errilly and does not belong to the Franciscan Order. However, I shall refer to Ross Errilly as an abbey as it is so widely known and used in reference to the monastery. This is also the case within the Irish language, with many assortments of spelling evolving through the centuries. But the favourite form which appears is Ross Treely and Ross Triley, which gave rise to the legend of the creation of Ross Errilly, the flaxseed of the three swans. Archbishop of Tuam, MacHugh, was praying within the church of the shrine in Tuam when a vision told him to build a monastery for the poor friars and the Black Death would stop. He was told to head at once to a place called Cordara near Headford, and a visible sign would be given to him. The bishop arrived in Lower Cordara with some friars in tow, and to his amazement 3 swans flew in a straight line with flaxseed in their bills and rested on a spot. Once the bishop and the friars went to the spot, the swans were gone, and to their astonishment lay 3 bunches of flaxseed in full bloom. This is the spot where Ross Errilly was to be built. Chief benefactor or landowner was the main title given to those who donated their land in order to build precincts. The first benefactor at Ross Errilly was the Granards, with William Granard being the first benefactor. In 1538, monasteries were suppressed, and in Ross the friars were cast out. This was due to their opposition to Henry VIII's divorce from Queen Catherine. The benefactor of Ross was then Richard Berg, or Burke, Earl of Clanrickard, who protected the friars, which led to their return to Ross Errilly. The Clanrickards would prove to be of great help to the friars at Ross. In 1569, Queen Elizabeth reigned and inquired into the wealth of the monasteries. This showed that at the time Ross Errilly contained a church, cloister, a hall, dormitory chambers, a cemetery, 3 small gardens, and a mill which only worked in winter. In 1572, Father Farrell MacEgan, a native of Connacht and then provincial of the Irish Franciscans, built an enclosure and a causeway paved with large stones, which terminated at the enclosure. A gatehouse was also built on the south side. In 1580, Richard Berg regranted Ross Errilly to the friars. In 1584, the Crown was angered by this regrant and granted the lands to an Englishman who plundered Ross of its library, manuscripts, and expelled the friars. In 1586, Ulick, the 3rd Earl of Clanrickard, was restored as chief benefactor and re-established the friars to the monastery. In 1604, James I was the King of England, and Richard, the 4th Earl of Clanrickard, restored the friary. In 1612, Sir Arthur Chester, Lord Deputy, directed William O'Donnell, Protestant Archbishop of Tuam, to expel the friars. O'Donnell sent a private warning to the friars of Ross of his intentions, and the friars took flight to avoid another expulsion. 1626, the friars returned to the monastery on the accession of Charles I, which also brought a brief relaxation on the penal laws. In 1641, the Battle of Shrule took place. Shrule is a small village where the boundary of Mayo and Galway sits at the edge of the village. Many Protestants were injured at the battle, including the Bishop of Killala. Father Brian Kilkenny, then guardian at Ross, hearing of this, brought the injured to stay at Ross Errilly. Between 1626 and 1656, the friars remained undisturbed, and it is during this time that the chalice of Ross Errilly was created, and the O'Queely chalice. The O'Queely chalice is believed to have been created by Malachy O'Queely, Catholic Archbishop of Tuam, in 1640. 1647 saw the chapter of the Franciscans being held at Ross under the presidency of Reverend Anthony de Burgo. 1656 brought the Cromwellian period and his reign of terror upon the Catholics of Ireland. Ross Errilly managed to avoid a slaughter until the 10th of August 1656, when the friars were warned of a Cromwellian attack. Mass was said by the guardian, and the friars each left the chancel, chanting the Psalm of David. Legend also has it that the bell of the abbey was taken down and flung into the Black River near the mill, where it is believed to still chime when any Franciscan friar of the Irish province is about to die. 1664, the friars returned under the protection of Richard, the 6th Earl of Clanrickard. 1753 saw the last flight of the friars from Ross. Lord St. George was now benefactor. The O'Flahertys, a neighbouring enemy of George, told informants of the friars' return to the monastery, which was punishable, and so George set up a manufacturing business within Ross in order to show no such religious practice was taking place. At this stage, it is believed that the friars withdrew to Friars Island, which was present in the nearby lake, but is not present today. In 1789, upon seeing the state of the friars' living conditions, and Mr. Henry Lynch of Ballycurran Castle granted the friars 16 acres at the foot of Kilroe Hill, with a weekly mass still held within Ross Errilly. It is believed that there was a community of 7 living at Kilroe, but had fallen to 3 by 1801. By 1809, the roof of the nave, chancel and aisles at Ross had fallen in, and in 1840 the monastery at Kilroe was abandoned and the entire roof of Ross Errilly Abbey had fallen into ruin.